The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Hello, welcome back to Moms for Justice. I am Carolyn. Good to have you today. I'm kind of last minute on this one, very impromptu live. But I'm going to be announcing the Amazon gift card giveaway on this live. So hopefully, if you're the winner, you're on here right now and you will be able to claim your prize. That would be awesome. But yeah, I was going to originally put it up as like a post, but because I'm doing this live today, I figured I would just announce it live, and it's so much more fun to do it live anyway. And I will have to redraw if that person's not on here, so I'm just going to pray that they're on here. Anyway, but what we're talking about today is a pretty big topic. Is Hollywood evil? Is pretty much, and it's, bouncing off of everything that just happened with Rob and Michelle Reiner. Now, the death certificates are back. I'm sure you've heard in the news that the death certificates are out. Now, these are their death certificates, and I know it's a little hard to read because they're kind of crappy copies, but here they are. I'm just going to give you a little gist of what I found from it because there's a lot of things to read. If you can't read that all there, certain information is blacked out. The times are listed on the death certificates, and they're likely times that the bodies were discovered, not the time of their death. Now, Rob Reiner is listed at 1545 military time, and Michelle Reiner 1546, 1 minute apart. Here's another thing I noticed on here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but Michelle, Robert's listed as deceased, and you've got Michelle listed as widow. Okay, you're only a widow if your spouse died first. So that's clue number one, that Rob Reiner was killed first. Okay, but common sense is telling me that Rob Reiner would be killed first anyway because of him being a man and his strength, and she's a woman. No offense, ladies, but we're not as robust to fight as men are. So my assumption is just further support that he was killed first. It's funny, my mother lives with me, and she was making dinner tonight. She goes to me, well, how could they both be in the same room sleeping and Nick can just go on in there and kill both without the other one being able to get away? Well, I personally think it's totally, if you're sound asleep, okay, if my husband and I were sound asleep, it doesn't take long to do what he did. It's not strangulation. Strangulation takes a very long time. It takes minutes, and they're agonizing minutes. And, I've read something about this, that when you strangle somebody, and they were not strangled, just confirming that right there, but strangulation takes a long time because, you can last longer as the victim, gasping for breath. But not only that, it takes an incredible amount of physical strength to strangle somebody. It takes much longer. And I've heard killers give interviews from jail when they, talking about the killing that they did, and it was by strangulation. And every single one of them said, never did I think it was going to be that hard. But when you're dealing with a knife and somebody who's possibly either in withdrawal and literally a bear, like a lion, they're in withdrawal, or what I do think is that he was on drugs. He was known to take methamphetamine. That gives you superhuman strength. And you're kind of like the Incredible Hulk. All right. And I don't care who you're up against. Somebody on meth that's crazed out of their mind, they could be a $130 in weight and go up against some big, strong bodybuilder. And it is possible for the drug addict to win in the end. Their strength is just superhuman. So let's say that that's the case, right? Also, there were cuts to many extremities on both their bodies, head, arms, all over the place, and then a slice of the throat. All of that really does not take very long. I'm not acting this out like, to be a creepo or anything, but like, just boom, 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 boom in a rage. And then that final slice, it can all happen in under a minute. Let's also talk about the fact that imagine being Michelle and hearing it, you're half asleep, you sit up, you look over, and this is happening, and it's like, it's over. I mean, if he got to Rob while he was sleeping, it's over in like 20, 30 seconds. It's over. So to answer that question to my mom might be a question that you guys all had, and I think it's pretty telling that, both of them being there is not an issue. It can happen in such a short period of time. So the timing that's on the reports are likely reflecting order of discovery for the investigators and not necessarily the exact moment of death. I think we don't really truly know that yet. Now, the crime scene layout and discovery. Daughter reportedly runs into the house, sees her father first. So let's talk about why she didn't see her mother first. Well, she may have been on the other side of the bed. She may have rolled off the bed. She just probably wasn't immediately visible due to shock. You know what I mean? That's another possibility, that she sees Rob and then doesn't even see anything else. And even though she could be laying right there. First responders likely focused on the first visible victim before even recognizing the second. Now, the blood evidence and sequence of events. So we don't have a report on that yet, but blood splatter analysis will also help to determine the order of attacks. And the reason why I know that is because whether blood is from one or multiple victims is what it will tell, and directionality and movement during the assault, okay? So if Rob was killed first, initial blood evidence would contain only Rob's blood, right? If Michelle was killed second, there's going to be a mix of Rob and Michelle on her. And that, to me, is probably the first most important detail to help an investigator know who died first. The second thing to me would be just common sense. They're going to go after the dad first because he's got way more strength than Michelle. And then you got blood cast-off patterns, okay, which can indicate the number of strikes that were given, the type of weapon motion, and whether it was like a frenzied or controlled behavior. And then also their motive to theorize Rob was attacked first because of, him being physically capable of restraining Nick. So naturally he would go to him first. And let's also note that Nick was previously bear hugged in the past during violent outbursts. I can't speak tonight. I'm sorry. So that's another thing, because we know that there has been calls in the past that they've called the police, and some of these calls I don't think have even been reported because the celebrity status of this whole thing. There's probably way more, and we just don't know about all those. But I do have some dates for you I'll go into. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the hotel room blood evidence. There was significant blood discovered in this hotel room, okay? Especially the shower. Cleaning staff were able to visibly detect blood, more than trace amounts. Possibly clothing or body cleanup occurred there. There was this red backpack, satchel, is that what this called? Satchel, seen earlier, which raised a lot of suspicion. And it was possibly used to transport bloody clothing, and blood may not have been visible externally. So the amount of blood required to be noticeable supports an attempted cleanup, awareness of any wrongdoing and stuff like that. And then you've got, and this is a big one for me, which is like everybody's like divided on this case. There's the empathy for mental health, and then there's people that are like, no, he was a spoiled brat. He got everything he wanted. He was given so many chances. They had the funds, obviously, because they put him in rehab 18 times. I learned it was 18, not 17. So what are the signals of consciousness of guilt? Okay. Changing of his clothes, attempting to clean up the blood, which is very obvious to me, leaving the scene, and possibly, we don't know yet the full extent, but disposing of clothing and or weapon. These behaviors contradict a claim of complete disassociation or lack of awareness because of his mental health. It just does. I'm sorry. I am all about getting help for mentally ill people. I am all about us not having enough mental health resources in our country. But so far as this has carried on with Nick Reiner, all I'm seeing is a spoiled brat who literally made conscious choices. And there's also the question of, is it even really mental health as an issue here? Because you know what? Mental health can mimic drug use. It really can. And it's hard for us to really know the whole picture here. It's probably likely that he had a lot of things that a lot of Americans have. I know he's been diagnosed as schizophrenic, but there's a lot of schizophrenic people out there that don't murder. And there's bipolar and ADHD and a whole host of issues out there. And they don't murder people. And let's add in the fact that it is highly unlikely, the statistics show that it is very rare that somebody is going to kill their own parent. It's just very, very rare. So that's working against him. And then you've got all these steps that he took. He's not do you guys remember back in the day in New York City? I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s. There was this guy, he was on the subway and he killed people on the subway. Well, he was truly schizophrenic because his behavior afterwards made no sense. Never made any sense. If it makes sense, I don't think they're going to have a mental health defense that's going to work. I just don't. Now, I do think he's going to pull out the abuse card, but that remains to be seen. Okay. So the investigators are going to look for bloody fingerprints, shoe impressions. Nobody's talked about shoe impressions. Cast off blood patterns on walls and ceilings, transfer stains on the bedding, towels, and clothing at the hotel. And then the angle of cast off droplets, things like that. We still do not have a clear idea of what's the deal with the weapon. We don't know. Where is it? I don't know. Unless something's come out today that I didn't hear, I don't know anything about it. So, okay. Prior police calls that have been noted from Nick Reiner, incidents involving him, where they were called to the home multiple times in 2013, 2014, 2017, and twice in 2019. They were all family violence, battery, calls. And patterns suggest long-term escalation that led up to this murder. This was not a sudden event, guys. There were signs. And we also believe, and we're hearing little rumors running around about there being suppression of other incidents, which is what I was talking about before. There are questions raised about incidents that had happened and, please, I don't want to file a report on this. I don't want this to get out to the media. Using private security or fixers to, cover up calls or incidents that happened in public. And even, again, it's rumor, but non-disclosure agreements. And the only reason why I'm going to, give clout to that is because that is very common with celebrities, non-disclosure agreements, which is basically giving somebody a piece of paper and saying, shut your mouth. I'm going to pay you this amount of money and you're never allowed to talk again. And they rarely hold up in a court of law, by the way. So the wealth and status here, is playing a huge role. Okay, so the party incident, I think we all know that, we all know about the Conan O'Brien party. There were a lot of people that wanted to call the police. due to Nick's behavior. Others allegedly discouraged people from calling the police, which is a big mistake, I think, which is just further indicates that the behavior was alarming enough to concern the Hollywood elites, which, I don't think a lot surprises Hollywood elites these days. And I've got this episode is going to just go right into that. Let me tell you, I want to talk about what's going on in Hollywood today and what has probably always been there. And it's just being exposed more and more now. So I've already talked about mental health a lot, and the insanity defense is really hard to prove. Can Alan Jackson do it? I don't know. Is it going to be an insanity defense? I don't know. But can Alan Jackson do it? Well, if anybody can do it, it's Alan Jackson. And there's probably some people on here that can't stand Alan Jackson because of Karen Reed, but the guy is such a good attorney. He really is. He's the best. He's the best in the country. So if there's anybody that can lay down a case for insanity, it's going to be Alan Jackson. Violent individuals, they can seem stable for so many years, and then just something like this happens. Particularly concerning, given a prior violent history from Nick Reiner, though. You know what I mean? I think at times in between, he appeared stable. He showed up at interviews. He did what he had to do to make himself sound like, I'm seeing better days now, and the dad was like on these interviews being like, it was hard, but now we're on a better road. But that happened many times. And we didn't see the in-between so much. The parents are portrayed as compassionate and protective of Nick. Possible discussions occurred about siblings caring for Nick when the parents were gone. No confirmation of that yet fully until the other two siblings start talking, but there is rumblings about that along, with Hollywood. There's constant legal and financial support that had been provided by the Reiners for so long. And I think that just comes with being famous. You know what I mean? You need to temper things, to keep your reputation so that your family doesn't look bad in the media. It's just, but it raises questions about long-term enabling and protecting of somebody that seriously was in trouble. And this is not a blame game. I want to be clear with you that things I say, I have already said and will say, do not mistake that for me making accusations. I am just putting ideas out there. There's a lot of things we don't know. We really don't. And Rob and Michelle might have been genuinely good parents. Okay. But it has to be explored. And we're waiting for a lot of information to come out to answer a lot of questions. So the bottom line is, being a child of a celebrity, it's so hard. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being born to a huge star? Like, oh gosh, Steven Spielberg or Tom Hanks. And actually his son is on my list here. It has to be so hard. It's either you're going to grow up and try to match your parent, or what? Can you be secure with yourself as a human being and not be famous? I've heard this story over and over again, and then that's another thing. Somebody reached out to me. Somebody commented to me this week and said to me, you know what? It's unfair for you to talk about this when it's really a country problem. It's a problem with the whole country, not just Hollywood. Well, listen, my response to that person was that particular episode I was talking about was about Rob Reiner, which is in the world of Hollywood. So I opened with my intro of saying something along the lines of, can you believe what's happening in Hollywood? Because it applied to that. I want to be fair and say to everybody that's listening right now that it is a problem across the country. And I'm not negating that, and I'm not ignoring everybody else. I'm just dealing with this one topic, which is why I wanted to talk about Hollywood on this episode. So, is it an evil place? Well, we could go down a lot of rabbit holes with this one. I mean, my husband showed me, and I tried to find it today, and I don't know where it was. I was looking all over for it, but he was like watching the TV one day and he goes, "Look at that. Look at that. Look at this clip they're showing on this podcast. It is a party that Beyonce is at and Gwen Stefani's at." By the way, I'm a huge fan of Gwen Stefani. Tragic Kingdom days. But Gwen Stefani, like all these J-Lo, they're all at this party and they're serving it's like this big sushi fest, and there are like women that are naked laying on tables, and the sushi is like in their hoo-ha and around their breasts and all that, and they're eating sushi off the people, and some of the people are laid out like they're like been murdered. Like there's red sauce for blood and all, and my husband's like, "What the heck is going on?" What are these people doing in Hollywood? Like, talk about I don't know, glorifying Satan. I mean, it's just like, when is it never enough? You know what I mean? I remember that a couple years back, not a couple years, like 15 years ago, everybody, I know you guys are going to relate to this. If I have some people that are in my age group, when you were like in your 20s and 30s, when you looked on TV and a commercial went on, there was nothing about there was no side boob showing. There was no people in their underwear. There was nobody talking about really I remember the Massengill commercial. That was probably the most risque commercial I saw when I was younger. But there are commercials now about I saw somebody about bleeding and I'm trying to be careful what I say here. They're talking about the woman's period, really graphically. And I'm like, "Hello, it is 12 noon this afternoon. My children are watching TV." I'm like, I can't believe what is on TV today. So it's incredible. It really is. You guys know what I mean, right? Okay, so then another one is the award shows. The award shows crack me up. So years ago, people came out in nice, costumes. People were dressing it up. In the 80s, I was loved Prince and Michael Jackson, and Madonna was the risque person. Well, the people today make Madonna look like a virgin, no pun intended, like a virgin. They make her look like a prude. They really do, because now, when you go to a Super Bowl halftime, or you're watching the award show and they come out to perform, they're in there they're in panties. They're in a little pair of panties, and boobs are popping out of the top, And what's her face? Miley Cyrus came out. She had an outfit on once with made sure she wasn't wearing a bra, and the nips were sticking out and all that. And I'm just like, why? When is it everyone's trying to one up on each other? Is what it feels like. It's let me take off even more, and I'll beat out this celebrity, And then I remember Sam Smith came out a couple years ago dressed as the devil, and I'm like, y'all going to hell. And I shouldn't say that. But it's really bad. Hollywood is bad in that sense, and I just went off on a complete tangent. I am so sorry, but how about P. Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein, R. Kelly? I never in a million years thought the things that go on in their parties and in their private lives even existed. I was like, are people this it's scary. Okay, it's just so scary. It's the darkness that has become more exposed today than I've ever seen before. And I saw a video of a P. Diddy party. And I actually put it up as a short, a small, a year ago. I put it up as a short when this whole thing came out. And they're all partying and they're all drinking and they're dancing around. And, Diddy is like in the middle of this whole thing, and there's guys and they're pulling their shirts off, and there's ladies with like skirts up their butt crack. Okay. And then the camera moves into his beautiful house and the kitchen and everything. And standing there are his daughters. His daughters. They're like 12 and 13 years old in white plush robes. They're all dolled up. They look gorgeous. And I'm like, what is going on? All right, and don't get me started on R. Kelly, right? What went on in his jungle room, like in the basement jungle room, traumatized me for life. I mean, it's just, that I just can't believe it. So, let me start with the worst clip I'm going to play tonight. And some of you might have seen it and some of you haven't. And I'm not throwing Rob Reiner under the bus here. I'm not. But this is a clip of him being roasted back in the year 2000. Okay. And there is a very concerning, disturbing joke made. And hopefully, like the other day, my clip doesn't get messed up and stop. But we'll just listen to this, okay? Just you're gonna be like, what the heck?
I just want to say I've been having just a great time. Everybody's been really, really funny. I just don't want people to get the wrong idea that this is not really, Rob's favorite style of humor.
Wait for it.
What he really enjoys is what I do, which is far more substantive. But I have to tell you that Rob has devoted himself to seeing the kids from birth to age 3 get the kind of nurturing, intellectual stimulation, love, really, that will make them grow up to be a fully functional, happy person, unlike, say, Brett. And it's a great thing. Most people don't know where this comes from. And Rob doesn't like to talk about it because he's kind of a modest guy. But it comes out of his own personal experience. See, as a baby, Rob was routinely beaten by his father, Carl. Rob believes that this early physical abuse had a profound effect on him as an adult and led to the horrible failure of Ghosts of Mississippi.
You didn't go for North on that one. Just curious.
Exactly. What possibly could explain North?
I helped him out.
On a typical night, Carl would slip into Rob's bed,
Jesus.
roll him over, swab him down, and say something like, "I'm thinking about hiring Maury Amsterdam to play Buddy Sorrell. What do you think?" Well, the success of the Dick Van Dyke Show changed things dramatically. Carl started inviting many of his famous friends to son.
Really? Did you hear that? It's not funny. And they're all laughing. They're all laughing. Was it just a joke? Maybe, because Hollywood has sick jokes. But I do think it's pretty telling. Maybe not anything about Rob, but just about Hollywood, that they could get up and even talk like this. You know what I'm saying? And I won't bore you with the rest of these clips, but on the roast, but there's other times in the roast where Billy Crystal mentions like his fondness for children and things like that. It's not funny. And this is the year 2000. Okay, and my point being, today that would never fly. Because, ever since the Me Too movement and people like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein, no one's going to feel comfortable doing that anymore. But there was a time that they thought they could get away with it. So actually, it's getting worse in some ways, but actually it was bad back then too. You know what I mean? And it's really disturbing. And, you know, when I saw this, it was like right after Rob Reiner was killed. And I'm just like, oh man, this is bad. This is bad. People are going to use this. You know, they're going to play it. You know, it was really important for me to say that, you know, it is possible that it had nothing to do with Rob. It was just Hollywood being sick. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what they do. And the fact, what's worse about it is all the laughter about that. I would have been like, boo. I would be like, oh my God. And I probably would have even gotten up and walked out. I'd be like, I want my money back for this roast. It's like, I can't believe I bought a ticket for this. So, then there's also, okay, so there's Stephen Baldwin too. Do you guys know the Baldwin brothers? I mean, a lot of people know Alec, Stephen, was it Billy Baldwin and Daniel Baldwin? Now, some people don't like Stephen Baldwin. He has kind of separated from the Hollywood mindset. But listen, he's no joke. He was an actor. He was in lots of movies. And what was that one movie he was in? I forgot. But anyway, he went on PBD. And just so you guys know, PBD is my favorite podcast. Excuse me, I always do that. I hate when that happens. He's my favorite podcast. Like, he's the best, PBD. I love him. And he had Stephen Baldwin on. And he talks about Hollywood
How much
being
has Hollywood
evil.
changed for you?
Hold on. He's got the coolest voice too, as you can hear. All right, take a listen to him talking about Hollywood here.
And you're sitting watching movies with 80-year-olds.
Right.
And those became your best friends sometime. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Okay, can I get you some pop? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm going to sit over. And then you watch a movie, you're just like, oh, such therapy, right? You watch some of these movies. But yeah, it was always exciting for me. By the way, Hollywood, for you. You guys have been in this space for a while. Highest level. All of you, I would say, everyone's done something that's been at the highest level.
Right.
How much has Hollywood changed for you from then to now?
I'll answer that in a second because I just want to compliment you, because what you just described about yourself is you're a storyteller. You love movie. Your natural, organic instinct is movies. Why have movies impacted you so much? Because you're a storyteller. You're a creative. You hang out with your kids. You read books. You tell them stories. You play sports. You engage them with the heart stuff, because the finance isn't first in your heart. You're a creative that God's using in this way. That's just me talking. What's fascinating is down the road, you should make a plan to let that creation out, because now God's put you in a position to do it for yourself.
Well, what time's your flight back? When are you flying back? Tonight or tomorrow?
Whenever you say.
Okay, because I'm going to show you something right afterwards. Maybe I'll take you with me right afterwards, and I'll show you what I just bought. Because we're going to turn Fort Lauderdale into the Burbank of East Coast, and you'll see what we're doing with movies. We're going to be in movies for the rest of my life is what we're going to get into. We're going to produce, we're going to do storytelling.
Now, can I share something with you?
Yeah, please, go for it.
Hollywood is evil.
Tell me why.
No, just listen. I love you.
Has it always been, or is it now?
Always.
Okay.
So that means in the spiritual aspect of it, which you pay attention to.
Sure.
All these guys are building studios now. De Niro, Wahlberg, everybody's on this tsunami wave of what's going to happen. What if the technology changes? What if I can do it right in this room? What if I can make a whole movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger right here?
We can.
On an app. I'm being an a-hole to make a point. I've learned it's changed so much. The most important thing is the storytelling. I just, on the flight over here.
Yep.
Literally the flight you brought me on, I watched Jerry Maguire.
One of my all-time favorites.
They don't make them like that anymore, Patrick.
Nope.
Why? Patrick, why? Because Hollywood controls the content. What's Hollywood about now? Wait. Because I did this on Jamie Kennedy, I got in trouble. Jamie Kennedy said, "You're wrong. Hollywood is not elitist. Hollywood does not have a small club that it feeds itself and they make Barbie and MCU and that's it. They want the money. The machine of Hollywood wants the money, not the art, not the quality film like Jerry Maguire. They don't want that. They used to. But that generation's, those great directors, that decade of those storytellers is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I worked with a kid a couple of years ago. He said to me, "Oh, I'm editing for you, Mr. Baldwin, but I didn't waste time editing it like normal. I'm editing it so it goes right into the Netflix model."
What does that mean?
That means there's a format to which your film must be submitted to Netflix. So if you want to sell to Netflix, it can't be the format outside of that.
How different is it? Is it dramatically different?
No.
Okay.
But that's not the point. The kid's making art and telling a story as an editor, not thinking about the story.
Thinking about
He's
Netflix
thinking about
guidelines.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So this is how the tail is wagging the dog. What's going to happen is the pendulum always swings back, my friend. So here comes Trump pretty soon. He's going to make certain corrections in America. And one of those things will be the hold that certain creatives have on the process of who gets picked, what stories go into big distribution, blah, blah. There's a hold on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time a guy like comes along with a beautiful Jerry Maguire, they're going to go, "Where's Barbie?
Yep.
Why can't the kid who's the son of the guy playing Jerry Maguire hold a Barbie?" Because, we have certain paid advertisements, and if they click on the Barbie, blah, blah, blah. Patrick, I'm done with that. I'm done. Hollywood is going to die in the next 20 years because of that. It will, because people don't care. They're already getting it right to their phone, what they want.
Let me just say this too. It is about the money too. And by the way, Mark Wahlberg, I think Mark Wahlberg he just mentioned him as being somebody who's opening up a studio. Mark Wahlberg, as far as I could see, has always been, against the evil of Hollywood. So, I don't want to comment too much on him, but I'm not sure why he would have roped his name in there. But aside from money, I like what he first said more than anything. Hollywood wants to, direct and control the stories that are told. Now, what do I mean by that without being, political in any way? Because that's one thing I don't want to do. This is a true crime podcast. But what I will say is I notice that they make sure they put certain things in their shows now. Okay, and you can guess what that is. But I'll watch a show, and no matter what, they check all the boxes. I've got this kind of person in here, got this kind of person in here. And it's like, why? Why? I mean, yeah, he's extremely religious. I know he is. But what he's saying is the truth. It's not about good movies anymore. It's about pushing what they want you to see. Okay. And it's not about everyday, like good, wholesome, storylines anymore. It's not about the Jerry Maguire anymore. It just isn't. And I don't know. It just goes to show you just how much they have the reins, guys. And does that make you concerned? Does that make you worried about what's to come in the future? There's more about this. I just wanted to play that little section for you. Now you've got also like Corey Feldman, okay, who recently, I don't know if you believe Corey Feldman, but he talked about all this crazy abuse. There's a documentary out now about Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon, the guy that ran it, was finding humor in putting, Nickelodeon, when they have the shows where they pour the green slime over their head and stuff. Well, they did other things as well. And they would put kids in certain kinds of clothing or certain outfits for their own personal enjoyment. That's almost like, it was like mockery of the kids, and it borderlined on sexualizing children. And it was just really, really disturbing in itself. The list just goes on, guys. Okay. There is a feeling of being invincible from celebrities in Hollywood. But I guess that part of things is really for another podcast, right? But seriously, what's it like to be raised in the shadow of a huge celebrity like Rob Reiner. Okay. So one of the first people that came to mind when I was thinking about other kids that have gone through this to see if I could find some patterns or things that correlate with Nick Reiner was celebrities such as Christian Brando. Okay. So everybody knows Marlon Brando. Okay. Christian Brando grew up under the shadow of one of the most famous actors in history, right? Incredible actor. In fact, one of my favorites. But the family is deeply disturbed, okay, and is marked by instability and substance abuse, emotional chaos. It's horrible, the Brando family. In 1990, Christian fatally shot his sister's boyfriend, okay, Dag Drolet. His sister was Cheyenne, and she's second on my list. She's another one. He had a confrontation in Marlon Brando's home, okay, and Christian ended up shooting him and then later pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and served several years in prison for this. Court records and reporting at the time showed a pattern of substance abuse, a lot of anger issues, and lack of structure that had followed him since he was, a very small little boy. His case is a really good example for me, comparing him to Nick Reiner. Okay. Now, Marlon Brando was widely regarded as cinematic genius. He was in many movies like The Godfather and Streetcar Named Desire and all that. But he admitted in interviews that he was emotionally distant and a permissive parent, and basically just let his kids do whatever they wanted. It was very wrapped up in himself. Highly sexualized Marlon Brando, sleeping around with all these people, was probably never home. Like a lot of Hollywood elite, they're never home. They hire maids, housekeepers, nannies, whatever, to basically raise their kids. And this is a problem in Hollywood. This is a problem, and it adds an extra element of destruction to somebody who's already, struggling with mental health, insecurity, feeling like they're in the shadow of their famous parent. It's a problem, okay? Marlon Brando allowed an extraordinarily large amount of freedom for his children. Very minimal boundaries. Multiple biographers and former partners describe Brando's household as poorly supervised and was full of violent chaos, screaming, yelling. You guys should definitely watch some biography or documentary on Christian Brando because it's really heartbreaking, where he ended up. But Marlon did admit later in his life, before he died, that he had a lot of guilt, stating that he failed as a parent, and he actually said that it contributed to the tragedy that came about. So Cheyenne Brando is the sister, and she is probably more of a match to Nick Reiner than even Christian was, because she struggled with severe mental health issues. She fell into this horrible hole of addiction, particularly after the killing of her partner by her own brother. And then her brother gets incarcerated, and then you have an absent father. So that combined with her mental health problems, she just went down the wrong road. And she was subjected to intense media scrutiny. She had a bunch of legal proceedings that went on, and she was just grieving and deteriorating mentally before our eyes. And in 1995, she killed herself at the age of 25 years old. So her death is often viewed not as an isolated tragedy, but as the final outcome of years of untreated trauma, parental neglect, instability, and and living in the shadow of your famous dad, Marlon Brando. So it's a really good example. Another one I wanted to bring up was Cameron Douglas. Okay. Often a parallel story rooted not in violence against others, but in prolonged addiction and criminal consequences. He battled heroin and meth addiction for years, leading to federal drug charges. He went to prison. Okay. His struggles were widely reported, and Michael Douglas later spoke publicly about this, about the pain and helplessness he felt as a parent of a child that had such an extreme addiction. And he also noted that even with immense resources and money, he could not help his child. Cameron's story underscores a reoccurring theme that's going on in Hollywood today. Access to money, fame, it does not prevent addiction. If anything, you have a really high chance of, becoming either successful as a Hollywood actor, singer, musician, whatever. You have a higher chance of getting involved in drugs and other various crimes. So it's really, really very sad. Michael Douglas has said that he was deeply involved, but frequently absent as a parent, and eventually, stepped up to the plate and admitted that he was not really there for his child. Another one is Bobby Christina Brown. Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. What a heartbreaking family story that is. So she grew up in the glare of fame. Imagine having your mother be Whitney Houston. Okay. I'm a singer. I think I'm pretty secure with myself that I would have been okay, but man, that would have been hard. Okay. Whitney Houston is incredible. Okay. And then Bobby Brown, look, he had his moment, right? The whole 80s, every little step song. But the addiction amongst those two, they were like, she wanted the bad boy. She was the good girl. She wanted a bad boy. And, she ended up, being a crackhead pretty much. And her house was filthy dirty, crack pipes laying around all over the place. And here's this beautiful little girl, Bobby Christina. Sadly, Whitney Houston died. She was found unresponsive in a bathtub, and later died, and it was just multiple substances were in her system, even at I think she was like in her 50s, like just really, I mean, it just never ended for her, the drug use. It just didn't. And this is so traumatic for a child. It really is. So Bobby Christina, she ended up reportedly struggled with the grief and the loss of her mom. Rumors persisted that she was inadequately supervised and financially exploited. But she ended up dying too. Bobby Christina Brown died on July of 2015. She was only like 22 years old. And with her death, it was ruled drug intoxication and immersion in water, just like her mom. So it's just horrible. How about Brittany Murphy? That just came to my head. Brittany Murphy. Something's fishy about Brittany Murphy, by the way. I think that's an actual crime right there. That's never been solved. Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks' son. You got Drew Barrymore. Now she's unique on the list because she actually was a huge famous star, but she was also the granddaughter of John Barrymore, which was a massive shoes to fill. But she was like, I don't know, how old was she? Like 8 or 9 years old, going into Studio 54 in the 1970s, the disco where there's drugs rampantly being done in front of everybody and people having sex right there in front of little kids. So thankfully she survived. She is a success story. She completely rebuilt her life. And gosh, I love Drew Barrymore. I love her movies. I love her as a person. You can just see who she is. It just comes out of her, what a kind, loving soul she is. So, you know, it's possible, but man, did she have it all against her, right? She really did. She had it all against her. Charlie Sheen. I watched a documentary on Charlie Sheen not long ago. Excellent documentary. Please go watch it. It's on Netflix. The son of Martin Sheen, both were huge. Charlie and Martin were both huge. Okay. But recently in his documentary, the disturbing, dark things that came out in this documentary. I mean, aspects of his childhood, early Hollywood experiences, most notably alleged that he was sexually abused as a child by a Catholic priest. This has been repeated publicly and consistently, but he introduced drugs to other people around him. There's like a bodyguard that, I don't know if he was a bodyguard or a good friend, was on the documentary, was talking about Charlie, how he stood by him through everything. But man, he had everybody. Nick Cage, the story of him and Nick Cage is Nicolas Cage and him were like off their rocker, like completely out of their minds, like probably borderline on an overdose at any moment. It's just, and then of course he, you know, indulged sexually with women, like a lot of Hollywood people do. And that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. And he turned to, you know, homosexual relationships. So, but he said it was because he was on drugs and he was always looking for something bigger, something better. You know, FOMO is a real thing, fear of missing out. And being a one-upper is a real thing. And with celebrities, they're all trying to one-up each other. You don't think they're not watching? I mean, back in the day, the magazines of that were real big. They were like $1.99 at ShopRite or Publix or Kroger or whatever. Us magazine. I mean, people were buying them left and right because they were just addicted to what was being shown in these magazines, pictures of their lives. And these celebrities were buying the magazine themselves to make sure they were in it and then looking to see what other people were doing and trying to one up on the other person. So it's just, you know, Hollywood is just a mess. It is a mess. And it's only going to get worse until it comes crashing down, right? So with Nick Reiner, back to Nick Reiner. Nick Reiner, I don't think he's going to have too many good excuses here. I really don't. He lived a privileged life. We don't know if Rob Reiner, you know, did anything nefarious at all. That remains to be seen. I'm going to cover it as this comes out, you know, little by little. Let me know what you guys think below about everything I'm saying. I'm sure I rubbed some people the wrong way. I always do. But, you know, it is what it is. It's the truth. Just turn on your TV and you'll see it. Every show. It's like, oh, I can't watch this one because of that. Oh, really? I don't want to see that. You know, it's just constant in your face. It's just really annoying. Hollyweird, right. Anybody got a question for me? I'm going to announce my winner from the replay. The live stream, my last live stream, I gave out a bunch of giveaways. It was so fun. And I made everybody whole today with their gifts, but I have one other person to announce. And they're getting a $25 gift card because I wanted to give people a chance to win that couldn't make the live. And I've had so many people go, oh, I had my notification on and I missed it again. And I don't know why. And, you know, so I'm sorry about that. So I wanted to do a replay gang giveaway. Wait, I wrote down my winner because I put it in a randomizer and it is a lady. I know that. It just happens to be a lady. I think I have a lot of women followers on here. All right, where are you? I wrote it down. Give me 1 second. Guys, you got any questions or comments? Please post them. Did you guys like this video and subscribe? That would be awesome. Where is it? I'm so sorry. I should have had this right in front of me, and I don't. Also, guys, I'm gonna be doing giveaways once a month. And I'm thinking about doing a members only giveaway. Where I'll do a members only video, and it'll be like a smaller, more intimate live stream, and I can do giveaways for the members as well. Just, so I can say thank you to you for becoming a member. You can join below. I have also merchandise. If you're interested in Moms for Justice merchandise, that would be really awesome. Okay. I'm worried because we're light tonight that that this person might not be on here. But anyway, my winner is Marilyn Foster 6556. If you're on here, make yourself known. And then you know what? I don't know. It was kind of an impromptu live. Do you guys think that I should just try give the person 24 hours to contact me? I can make a post about it and give them my email and they can reach out to me, or should I just do a redraw? It has to be somebody that was on the replay, because that's what I said I would do, and I want to follow through on that. But yeah, it's Marilyn Foster 6556. I'm thinking maybe I should give them a chance to contact me tonight because I was so last minute. Yeah. Yeah, I only have 150 tonight. I'm bummed. But, again, it was last minute, and it's not Wendy. Everybody loves to talk about Wendy. And there was something else I was going to tell you guys. Oh, I have a 3-minute video that's coming out. I was going to put it up tonight. It is so good. You guys are going to love it so much. I know you will. It is on the Adelsons. It's only 3 minutes. And it is so good. Watch the whole thing. Like it, share it. It's probably going to go viral. It's really, really good. I'm excited to share that. I'll either share it tonight or tomorrow. And big shout out to my moderators. I know I got Rosie on here tonight. I think I saw Rick. Let me see. Rick disappears on me sometimes. Where is he? Where's Rick, Rosie? Is he not doing his job? I'm just kidding. No, he's there. I see him. Okay. So yeah. Let's see. There you are, Rick. Okay, she didn't reply. I'm going to give her a chance. So what I'll do is I will share it on I'll make a post about it, and I'll put her name out there, or I'll click on her. Maybe I can get to her if I just click on her handle, and then yeah, we'll go from there. But yeah, I got a really, really good Adelson video. I was gonna make it a short originally, but it's actually longer than that. So it's really good. So yeah. Well, as a singer and a performer myself, and my children are in the performing arts. Well, they're almost not children anymore, but my email, Megan? Oh, my email is momsforjusticenow@gmail.com. You can email me if you won, Marilyn Foster 6556, or you could just email me because you want to email me some information or whatever. As always, if you have information related to a case I'm covering, please go ahead and send it my way. That would be really awesome. And yeah, that's it. I guess we'll wrap it up. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. I so appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share the channel. Okay. See you guys later.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.